So I let you know that when we got back home, I'd show you what we did at the Hawk's house. And I don't think I ever actually showed you guys. So we're gonna do that right now. First thing was, there was a huge hole right here under the floorboard. You saw Ethan and I working on that. It is now filled and rock solid. So that is fantastic. Swivel seats still have not come in yet. So we're waiting on that so we can get this one and that one so they can twist. Well, one, the bumper is now all painted, nice and jet black. And got all the insulation up covering the sidewalls there, and actually around behind got everything except for the corners, which the corners we will do. It just may be a little bit easier to do it once we've got panels to shove in there. So we're still working on getting everything down along the sides. Sorry for the mess that's in here. This is also staging area for everything, but you'll probably notice that underneath of all this insulation that we need to still use for different things is brand new floorboard. So over here was the huge gaping hole that is now completely covered, and over here where we have our lovely fuel or diesel, this is cut a lot closer, so that's not this massive. The other hole was literally like huge. So we got that all buttoned up. This is not screwed down yet, and the reason why it's not screwed down yet is because there is still a lot of welding work all along this edge here that needs to be done, and all along this edge, and actually all the way up here. So what we talked about is I bought 2 things of marine grade plywood. That's going to go right here like this one, and then the next one is going to go right here, and that's that piece underneath the top piece. Those are going to be laid down right next to where the wheel wells are, and then we're going to actually put flashing from the trailer parts I had underneath of it, so that it's not going to get a ton of splash and everything else, to try to make the wood last as long as possible. Because of this whole project and already pulling the wood up from here and doing everything else, it was going to be easier if we just pulled the whole floor up, did the welding all across the bottom so we can get it nice and buttoned up. And so we're going to replace the entire floor. So what I need to do now is I went and got some not marine grade stuff. I got some regular plywood, very, very similar thickness. And we're going to paint the top and bottom of it with this waterproofing stuff, so that once that's done, we can cut it to size and basically fill in the rest of the bus that we need, so that we can pull the floor up as we go, weld down where we need to replace things, and then throw the wood on it, drill it in. It's a little bit more expensive that way. It's nowhere near as expensive as doing the entire thing in marine grade stuff, but I'm never, once we put the flooring in, once we glue that stuff down, I will never rip up the floor again. You can probably hold me to that. I was talking with a buddy the other day and I said something about that. And he said, well, you're probably, and I said, I'm going to be the last owner. As far as in my ownership, I'm never going to pull the floor up again. He's like, dude, you're probably going to be the last owner of this thing. Fair point. I can change anything that I want to inside the bus, as far as where the bunks are, where the seats are. If I wanted to, I guess I could rip everything down to the bare bones again and do it. But I would rather not. I would rather just do it once, make sure that I've got great skeleton to work with, and make sure that I've got everything in a way that I can change the inside if necessary, but that it's going to be roadworthy. So it takes a little bit of extra steps. It's going to be a little bit longer, which is going to push deadlines as far as using it back. But we would both, me and Andrew Hawk, would rather just do it once and make sure that it's going to be safe for everybody traveling in it. We're not going to be having rave parties and jumping on the edges of the wood and everything else, but we want the ability to know that if people are sleeping and we're driving, there's no possibility that all of a sudden a bunk is going to disappear into like a wheel well, because that would be horrible. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go grab all the wood out of the trailer. As far as the other 3 pieces of wood, I'm going to grab the paint. We're going to start painting it. That way it's ready to go next time we head over there, so we can just basically cut what we need to, throw it in, be all set. Plenty of other things to do as well. That's just kind of the main one that we're doing tonight. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, I also have 5 boards that are all going to be for the ceiling. And those, I wasn't going to paint them. I think with those, I was going to either shellac them or do some sort of a varnish type finish to it. Probably should figure that out pretty soon, because that's going to need to get done real quick. All right, so real quick before we get started, I'm going to address a couple of concerns that I can already tell that some of you are probably going to have. Yes, I'm doing this in a barn. Yes, we have animals that like to get on top of all my projects. It is almost time where all the chickens go into their coop. The cat, I can't really help. It does its own thing, and hopefully when it figures out that there's wet paint, it'll stay off of it. And yes, I'm doing it in a dusty, dirty barn, and this is not a professional paint booth. It's the floor. So we will see. All I needed to do is cover it and make sure that it's not gonna get wet and nasty and gross and all that stuff. So just laid them out. We're gonna cover the stuff. If it gets dust on it, it's what you get for living on a farm. So gonna go ahead and get this rolling. Time lapse it so you guys don't have to do all the work with me, but you can watch it. And here we go. Didn't take too long. In fact, I know you're all thinking this too. That color looks like crunchy peanut butter. And quite honestly, when I got some dirt in it, it looked like crunchy peanut butter even more. Again, it's a barn. It's going on the floor. I shouldn't care that much, and it just makes me feel all the better that it's now covered. So I'm gonna let this dry overnight, then we'll flip them over, do the other side tomorrow. That's done. Gonna go wash the brushes off now and wait till tomorrow, and we'll do the other side. So I messed up. And it's not the end of the world, but it definitely made things a little crazy. Last night, I painted the tops and I went inside so I could clean everything up. And I tried cleaning it up the exact same way that I've cleaned up every other roller brush that I have which is you run it under hot water and you grab it and you squeeze and you basically just squeegee out all the paint that's left in the brush down the sink. And this is what my hand looks like now. It's been a full 12 to 18 hours. This is with rubbing it, washing it like crazy, doing a bunch of stuff, and it's still like that. So big whoopsie on my part. Shouldn't have done that. I should have just thrown the roller away. And Abby's like, well, why didn't you just read the directions? Like, because it's industrial stuff and there are no directions on it. All it says is what's in it. But I should have known that if you're going to coat it on something, or coat wood, that's supposed to end up basically being waterproof, then you probably shouldn't do what I did. So I basically just let the stuff dry on it last night, and I got a couple more rollers. I'm gonna use this one for now, and undo my big whoops for that. That was just kind of silly on my part. So we're gonna go ahead and flip these over and do the other side. And as weird as it is, it's as close to cleanup as I'm gonna get, because I don't feel like making my other hand turn brown. So we'll let that stuff dry, and then it should be dry enough for me to go ahead and put it back in the bus for when we are gonna go over to Hawks this weekend. We gotta pull all the other floorboards up, and we're gonna replace it with these. So these will get cut to specific size. I'll probably, at that point in time, take out a brush and then do the edges, so that anything that we cut will actually be the right size, and then will also be coated, and then we'll put it in, screw it down, and the flooring will be done. And that sounds super simple, and I'm hoping it's just as simple as that. I probably didn't need to wait all night on it. In fact, now a lot of it, I mean, it's still a little bit wet, but it dries pretty quick. So another check box done, and floor should be ready to go. That is not the color, by the way, that the floors will finally be. We have really cool flooring that's going to be going in this, and I can't wait to show it to you, but it's a secret, so you have to wait and see. But it's not that color, for sure. Not going to be that color. Alrighty, well, it's dry. We're going to pick it up, and then we're going to put all the ceiling panels down, and I'm really excited about this. Show you what it's going to look like. So the ceiling is going to be this Rust-Oleum stain in polyurethane. It's called Weathered Gray. The reason why I did that was because the floor is actually going to be gray with blue flakes and speckles on it. And I was going to do like a darker wood type thing to kind of bring out like the actual depth of the grain, because I really like wood grain. But I also wanted something that, you know, looked pretty good. And quite honestly, I think like this stain or whatever is actually gonna, I wanted it to feel kind of open and homey on some level, because it is gonna be home on the road. So anyway, that was just a choice I made, and we'll see whether I like it or not. right, so obviously 1 can was not enough. This stuff is supposed to dry in about an hour, so we'll see how it dries when it's done. I have 2 more full and 1 half over there that still needs to get finished. So I'm gonna run back to the store and go get more, which I have to get a new belt for the AC compressor too, because belt number 2 was the wrong size as well. So I'm gonna run to the store and get that. I'm not super hyped on how it looks right now. I'm hoping that when it dries in a more even type thing. I was hoping that I would have the grain pop a little bit more. That's when I was putting them down. I was trying to decide what wood grain side I liked better. We'll see. I mean, here's the real kicker. I was gonna get shellac because I've done that before on plenty of other wood projects, and I like how it makes the wood grain just kind of pop out. I did that on a piano that I redid. And I was like, oh, I could do that. But part of me was like, well, maybe I could get a little bit more color or something that makes it pop a little bit more than just wood grain. So this, on the picture, on the can at least, made it look, you know, it still shows in the weathered kind of look or whatever. Allows it to pop at least a little bit. So, I don't know. It may be something that I decide, no, I don't like it. The good thing is I probably should paint both sides. I was just going to do the top side, but if I really hate how it looks, what I may do is just grab more shellac, flip it over, and do shellac on the other side. So we'll see. We got options, but for sure the option right now is to go and actually get more of the stuff so I can actually make all of them look the same. So when we put them up in the bus, at least it's all the same color. And granted, if I really, really hate it, what I could always do is I could do what was in there originally, which was basically wood, and then they had material over it. So we could go that route down the road. Tons of options. I'm not an interior designer, I'm sorry. I wish that I was on some level, because then I have more opinions on it. But since I don't, kind of get what you get. All right, we are back from the store and got all of the paints or stuff that we needed. And actually, I'm walking in for the first time to see how this stuff turned out, and whether or not I made a huge mistake or not. Because one thing that I did read while I was getting the new stuff was that you're supposed to use not a roller, but a foam brush to put it on. And that's what makes it all even. And sure enough, you can see there's lots of spots that don't look great because it didn't dry evenly. So I gotta decide whether or not I want that to be artistic. This one of course is wonky anyway, but that's a lot of splotchiness going on. So I could only find one other can, and it was a small can like the one I already used. So hopefully we'll still be able to get this project done before we got to start installing stuff tomorrow. But the way it's looking right now, not super enthused in how that's looking. So I might end up just using shellac on the back side and calling it good, because I think I've got enough shellac to do all of one side of all of them. So we'll get to it and see what happens. so much better. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you can tell as much. Yeah, there you go. Just the way it catches the light, it makes it look three-dimensional. Yeah. So that's the look that I was going for with the gray, hoping that it would just be a little bit gray, but with that depth. Not gonna happen with that stuff. Some of it we can chalk up to the fact that I applied it wrong. Some of it we can probably just chalk up to the fact that it was gonna turn it just gray and leave it one-dimensional or two-dimensional. Shellac is the stuff that I use, if you're curious, if you're doing 5 4x8 sheets, and it will take about one of these and a half, so 32, 1 quart and a half of this stuff to apply 1 coat. And then it also takes about 5 of those foam brushes because those were disintegrating like crazy. So if you're going to do this project on your own and for some reason you need to do 5 4x8 sheets of panels, grab 2 of these and a bunch of packets of brushes so that you've got plenty to go. So I am super pumped at how they turned out. I'm kind of mad at myself for even attempting to do the gray thing because in my mind, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, when I walk into the bus after a show, that sort of thing, I don't want something that's massively bright. The whole, I love how wood looks. I just want it to feel kind of like home on the road. So I was thinking, oh, well, maybe I could try to make things match the floor or whatever. This is what happens when you don't have a plan and you go to Walmart or Lowe's or anywhere else to go pick up stuff for your project and you're like, oh, I could totally do this. Just make a plan and stick with it. This was my original plan. This is what I was going for. I couldn't find it. And then plans changed. And I should have just gone to Lowe's and grabbed more of this stuff. Anyway, at this point in time, that's probably what's going to happen to the rest of the interior. So once I get the bunks designed, once I get the benches designed, we're just going to shellac the snot out of everything. And it's all just going to have that three-dimensional deep look to it, which I think is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. God made wood. And honestly, I just love when it is allowed to shine like that. So maybe we'll throw some color up on some for something. Can't make everything wood. Otherwise, the beds are going to be super uncomfortable. So now that those are painted, or shellacked, I'm going to go ahead and let them dry. We got to load everything up in the bus tonight so we can go out Hawks tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be putting on the, what are we putting on tomorrow? We're putting the hitch on tomorrow. We're going to hopefully get the floor done, and all the wood for the ceiling was done on purpose so that if we get to it, we can do the ceiling as well. That's a lot to ask for, quite frankly. As long as we get the hitch and a good chunk of the floor done, I'll be super happy. There's still a lot of electrical stuff, as always, that I still got to work on. And the belt that I picked up, by the way, just as a side note for the AC stuff, that didn't fit either. So I finally found a too long of a length so I can go one size down and hopefully nail it this time. So I'll stop at O'Reilly's on the way past tomorrow, exchange the belt, and then finally have an AC belt that actually works. And yeah, it's coming along. Super pumped. So if you haven't yet, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I'm super pumped about this bus. Every step is a step closer to bringing it out on the road to see you guys. So if you're interested in me coming out and showing you the bus and doing a show at your place, whether it's a house show at your church, local venue, just hit me up. I'll have a link in the description below. It's info@mattfawcettmusic.com. Put booking in the subject line and we'll get to talking. So thanks so much. We will see you guys next time.